Welcome to a joint Lorehounds and Properly Howard podcast covering A Night of the Seven Kingdoms on HBO Max. She never misses a chance to bloody up the King's Guard. It's Alicia.
Hello, I have my buckets of puppet blood at the ready.
And he'll be cracking nuts through this whole podcast.
Yeah, just breaking digits and smashing walnuts.
Today, we're recapping Season 1, Episode 4, 7. We'll give our hot takes on the episode, then go into a scene-by-scene breakdown.
The main breakdown will be on this feed every week. But additional content like Instant Take, that Sunday night, or the feedback episodes that are late in the week, you should do a search for Properly Howard Movie Review. And you can get that content over there.
And if you want to get in on those feedback episodes, send your emails to smallcouncil@thelorehounds.com or cocoonsofhorror@gmail.com. Or you can head to our Discord server in the link in the show notes to chat with your peers, your fellow watchers.
And if you like what you've heard and want to support us or get ad-free access and bonus content, check out the same link tree for our Patreon and Supercast subscription options.
All right, everybody, we are nearing the end of this season already, which feels like it just started. Anthony, how are you feeling?
Feeling great. I do feel like I should issue a mea culpa straight away. And that is, during our Instant Take, I suggested that there might be a new actor on the scene, a woman among the lords and ladies, and I suggested that this might be a character from Season 2 that they're inserting into Season 1 as if I had never seen her before. That actually is Red, the sex worker. Rowan Robinson is the actor's name. And it just turns out that I did not recognize her fully clothed.
No, I see. Or as Jessica called her in the Discord, Mother.
So it kind of threw me that she was among the lords and ladies because she's dressed like a lady. And, you know, the camera hung on her face as if she was meaningful to the scene. I was like, I've never seen her before. She seems important. It must be someone I have not met before. It turns out that she was a prominent actor in the very first episode.
Right, mocking Duncan, or at least he thinks she's mocking him. And
she was a little bit, but loving.
She was
a little mock.
Yeah. It was, it's one of those like verbal sparring mocking. You know what I mean? Like he was supposed to give it back to her, not just like come in super offended.
Right.
Yeah. Any other hot takes on this episode?
Oh, I think this is the strongest of the season for sure. This was sort of the episode where it got everyone who watches it, at least in my world, everyone was sort of applauding, saying that was the best. And I think that they're right. I think that this was the best yet. And I've been waiting for this, and I think that they really delivered.
I think so too. They really captured that forming the D&D party vibe of the latter half of this episode that I wanted from the book. And I was really happy with how it turned out. Alicia, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the general sentiment that this is the one. This is the episode. I am almost envious of non-readers who got to experience all the twists and turns. I think we were all probably immediately angry with Stefan Fossaway as soon as he's like, "Oh, but you are the righteous way, and I shall support you." And like, you liar, liar, apple on fire.
Right.
Yeah. So this one got a lot of strong emotional responses out of me, even though I knew what was going to happen. I have a feeling also that it was one of the most book faithful episodes. Like they really followed those beats. I would have loved it. Like we thought we met this quote unquote mad Riesling guy, and we were questioning, were they going to flesh out his character more since they gave that extra introduction? But I guess that's the fleshing out of the character we got. I mean, I guess I'm okay with that. There's only so much time to get into all the various side characters, and I'm so grateful for what we got from Lionel Baratheon.
He's the Gimli of this fellowship. I just want to be clear on that.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't expect necessarily this to be, I thought this might be like I thought that the Battle of the Seven would be the finale. But now they've set it up so that that's next week. So that kind of implies that there's going to be an entire episode for the finale to deal with the aftermath. And I don't know. Do you think they'll... I mean, they're not going to do a time jump to set up the next season, right?
I think that this is maybe a spoiler conversation.
You think?
It feels like in order to understand and fully appreciate the conversation that is about to unfold.
No, we can't say what the fallout is. Yeah,
right. But you have to have some kind of book knowledge, and maybe we're not there.
Right. But I did expect the big battle to be the last one, and it seems like it's going to be next week. So
yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. I guess that's what happens when you have 30-minute episodes. You gotta put it in the penultimate episode. And I will say it does follow the classic Game of Thrones pattern of putting the big battle in episode 9.
Yeah.
And doing
penultimate.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So maybe that's just they're trying to match that cadence that people expect.
What did you think of this episode?
I thought it was great. Echoing what you two were saying and the general sentiments of everybody. Best episode yet. Partially because it is book faithful, but I also just think that, like, you Anthony, I think you were the one who said, like, one of you said that we saw how to not trust Stefan Fossaway right away, right? I will say in the book, I was less inclined to distrust him. And I think that's because it was clearly from Dunk's perspective. Whereas here, we have a much more removed and objective viewpoint compared to the book.
I mean, but his cousin did warn us.
But also we had, earlier in the season, I remember somebody in this podcast said, we're seeing a darker side of Sir Arlen, largely because this is more objective, right, than Dunk's telling in the book. So I really liked seeing this. It's a different experience from the book, even if it is very faithful to the book's plot points. And I'm really excited to see how the actual battle plays out on screen, because it's very quick in the book, right? Like the battle itself is not, it doesn't take up a lot of pages.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Stefan, his cousin Raymond, even though he thinks his cousin's the worst, even he for a moment was like, "Oh wow, really? You're supporting him? Oh wow, you're surprising me." Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Dunk can't win one. Well, why don't we get right into the episode? We start off with a question. How good a night are you? Egg brings Dunk a meal and an apology for deceiving him. He explains that he was supposed to squire for his brother Darren, but his brother shaved his head and meant to miss the tourney. Dunk chastises him for lying, and then the two go to visit Prince Baelor, where Dunk defends Egg. After Aegon leaves, Baelor suggests that if Dunk is a good knight, he may want to demand a trial by combat, as a real trial would be stacked against him.
I love the amount of I love the theme of luck in this first scene, because recalling that first episode, it ends with them looking up at the night sky and seeing the falling star, which is luck. And, realizing, well, we're the only one looking at the sky, so maybe the luck is ours alone. The way that this episode begins, you see the stonework above Dunk, but it almost does look like constellations initially. And then immediately you see, like, oh, he's not out under the tree anymore. He's in prison. And then there's the question of luck. Is it bad luck that Dunk and Egg have come together? And I feel like Egg is actually really wounded by the suggestion that maybe meeting together was just bad luck. Because of course, Egg doesn't want that to be true. He thinks that they're actually have become friends. And of course, the viewers, we don't want that to be true. We want these two to sort of figure out and get beyond this little bump in the road in their relationship. So I like that they kind of brought in the initial theme of luck to this, because it does look as if Dunk is experiencing a bit of bad luck, right? Yeah.
But the Eggs also brought good luck in certain ways. Like, suppose he hadn't known Egg and he had been at that puppet show and gotten involved, Egg wouldn't have been there to stop them from, curb stomping him. Or, or he would have, or Tansy would have just been whatever they were going to do to Tansy. And he might have lost his first joust and lost all of his horses and armor and
Egg was a pretty good wingman. He can't really. He doesn't know how to talk to Tansy, and Egg is sort of like giving him a few ideas, like here's what should be on the shield, and maybe you're just the perfect height to puppet. Yeah,
I don't know if Dorn Tinder goes that far, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
I like this theme that you're pulling on, Anthony. This bad luck, good luck thing.
Would you swipe left or right on Egg?
I don't think that's an appropriate question.
As a squire.
It's
Squireable.
Well, we haven't actually seen him in action as a squire because Dunk hasn't gotten to fight yet.
I think Egg might make a good caddy, right? He may have good advice for, how to play the green. I'm not sure if I want him handing me a lance in the middle of the heat of battle. But who knows? Maybe he'll rise to the occasion.
He may, but he'll have to stand on Dunk's shoulders because he's very short right now.
Indeed.
I really like this contrast between how Dunk manages Aegon in front of Baelor and alone. They say good managers chastise in private and support in public, right? And in private, Dunk is like, you may not have had bad intention, but you still screwed me over. Like you just, this was just terrible. It doesn't matter what you meant. And then in front of Baelor, he's like, he's a good lad. That's great. I mean, that shows good leadership, even if Dunk is new to this.
Yeah. And I have to commend again, was his name Dexter Soul, Egg's acting, that apparently there was some directing involved too, where the director told him, pull it back, until it was just him there with his eyes brimming with tears. And that made me feel more sad for him than just reading those words on the page.
Do you think, here's a question, and maybe a rewatch will reveal this, but do you think that Egg ever actually lied?
About what? What did he lie about? He lied.
He's being accused of lying by Dunk.
We know he did because he said he never really knew his father. I mean, I guess you could argue like, well, I never really got to know him, but like
it was sort of an father. Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of lie. It's like, well, in
from a certain point of view,
right?
Oh my God.
No, seriously, yeah. It's an Aes Sedai lie. Like an Aes Sedai could get away with everything that Egg said.
Look, Luke Skywalker ended up really well mentally, and I think that we should then base all of our conduct on Obi-Wan's lies.
I said Aes Sedai, but they ended up. Yeah. Anyway. No, good.
I do wonder whether or not Egg has kind of convinced himself, well, actually, I didn't lie. I mean, everything I said was either sort of just concealing the truth but I don't actually come out and actually say
right
an actual falsehood. And I think, for someone who is somewhere in between 9 and 12, I'm not sure how old he's supposed to be, but I think that that's pretty typical. It's like, oh, well, actually, I'm following the letter of the law, so you can't really fault me with him. And I think what Dunk is saying is like, you and I both know what you did.
He misled him. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that Egg is kind of learning a lesson in ethics,
There, I'm going to bite and go into the Aes Sedai for Alicia. There is a difference between what an Aes Sedai vows to not do. Anthony, I don't know if you're familiar with the Wheel of Time much, but what an Aes Sedai vows to not do.
I've heard this bit of lore in the past, yeah.
And what a lie is, right? Because there is a whole scene, I don't remember if it's in the book too, but I think it is, but it's at least in the show, where an Aes Sedai is questioning a trainee, says, and it's Egwene for those who are curious. Says, what are the 3 O's? He goes, to not lie. And he's like, no, what are the words that it says? To speak no untrue word.
Mhm.
That's what it says. It doesn't say don't lie. It says speak no untrue word. And that's
Right.
how Egg operated here.
Yeah.
He spoke no untrue word, but he did lie. I think I would call this a lie. It's a lie by omission.
So I think I agree with you, and I think you could make a sweeping generalization about Egg and sort of his, whether or not he was more good luck or more bad luck for Dunk's perspective. I do have a question about his age, though, and it does kind of have relevance here because I feel like if he's 9 years old, which is Egg's perspective in the books, you almost need to forgive him for anything he does because he's too young to sort of be held accountable. But I think that if he's older, because he says that people think that I look or I'm small for my age. And he talks about sort of going through puberty earlier in the show. If he's closer to 12 years old, I almost think we forgive him a little bit less because you expect more. I guess you would expect more from a 12-year-old than you would a 9-year-old. So I don't know if he's supposed to be playing. I don't know if they're aging him up in the show or if he's actually supposed to be 9 years old.
So he is currently 11. And so when did they film this? Like a year or so ago? So he was 9 or 10 when they filmed it. I took him to be 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. He almost, the way he talks, it almost kind of feels like he looks young for his age, but he talks a little bit more like a 12-year-old. And the fact that he mentioned going through puberty made me wonder.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they're signaling here.
I don't think he's gone through puberty yet, but I think he is going to on the show.
Do we think Dunk is a good knight? Because we haven't actually seen him fight yet, other than against Sir Arlen.
I think the answer is no, he's not. But I like the question because you could read it in one of two ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a good knight with sort of ethical connotation?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a good man? Or are you a good knight? And what does he say after that? Like, are you skilled at arms?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is probably his intention, but he asked the question twice. And I really think it kind of underscores one of the major themes of the show.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be?
I mean, it ends up that the type of good knight he is the type of good knight he needed to be to get his 7 together. And of course, Baylor didn't anticipate that that his shitty nephew was going to ask for a trial of the 7. So he didn't know that he would need that. But it is ultimately, he was a good knight in the way that mattered to get the battle started, at least, because he was able to be morally upright enough and to appeal to conscience enough that he got quite a good team together, or at least with his lucky squire, Egg, got quite a good team together for him.
Yeah, I don't know if Dunk had much to do with it, except for
Baylor,
Raymond.
yeah, and Baylor.
Baylor, yeah. And I guess half Lionel, but that was also Dunk. Egg, rather. All right, let's go right to the demand. Dunk demands a trial by combat, which is initially refused by Arian after being pressured by his father. Arian demands a trial by 7, which is 7 knights versus 7 knights. Any fewer in the team will be disqualified. The trial of 7 will be held at dawn, and Dunk needs to start recruiting.
Okay, so I have a lore clarification question here. My understanding from the book, and I thought from the TV show, was that as soon as he agreed to this trial by combat, which was converted to a trial by 7, he forfeited the punishment of having like a hand and a foot lobbed off, and instead it became life or death. So that if he didn't gather the 7 knights, he would be killed, is what I thought. Am I misunderstanding that, do you think?
It's a good question.
I think, all right, so I'm bringing in sort of a medieval history detail here that I don't know if is true in Martin's world, but a lot of these trial by combats would end with the loser just saying Craven.
Mm.
You know, it's sort of like tapping out. And so it wouldn't actually be sort of a trial to the death. And then, of course, at the end of it, the gods have determined that the guilty party must suffer whatever fate that they were going to suffer. So it's very possible that at the end of it, he wouldn't experience death. He would experience the loss of a hand and a foot.
Mm-hmm. And then if Arian loses, then he just gets a bruised pride, basically.
That seems to be the case, yeah.
Well, let me layer this onto you, though. I believe they said that the punishment for what he did to Arian was a hand and a foot.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the layered charge of what Darren alleged, kidnapping Egg, which I think that's got to be punishable by death, kidnapping a prince.
Yeah, that's probably true. You that seems like, it doesn't seem like Dunk is going to come out good on the other side, no matter what. It's hard to know what the punishment is going to be, especially if, you know, Baelor is sort of the hand of the king here. If the gods have determined that Dunk is guilty, how will Baelor now treat or execute the guilt? I don't know. It's a great question. I don't think we've got an answer to it.
So how do we feel about the nut cracking?
I mean, it just shows what a blasé. I mean, my favorite part of that is that one of the lords ducking under the table to sycophantically pick up the walnut he dropped when Arian already forgot about it when it fell on the floor.
Yeah, and you know, Makar is clearly like, I'm so angry for my sons, and I'm so embarrassed of both of them. And it's really interesting that the actor really does sell. I know, Anthony, you said it was Old Munch. He really does sell that mixed motivation here, that mixed sort of anger and disgust at his own sons, anger and embarrassment.
I think in this case, I think in many other scenes in the Game of Thrones universe, there would be some serving man off to the side, like waiting in the wings to do that kind of work. So the Lord of the Manor isn't going to be insulted or shamed by having to crawl under the table. It just so happens that there's no one in the room to do it.
Oh, I thought he was more embarrassed of the fact that while taking a serious conversation, his son is just like slamming nuts loudly onto the table with a dagger. That's the embarrassing part. And the fact that he's kind of trying to dodge the trial by combat.
Yeah. I have a question about that. So what are his motivations? Arian says, I refuse trial by combat, and then instead asserts his right to do a trial by 7. Does he think that he can't take Dunk 101, or does he think, well, I'm gonna get all the glory if I, if I'm sort of the center of the first trial by 7 in 1,000 years? Or is it just like, I'm failing to understand his motivations.
I think that he thought Dunk would not be able to get together the 7.
Right.
And that the fight just wouldn't happen.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, he's thinking, this guy is utterly alone. Mm-hmm. His squire is even in my family.
Right.
There's no way he's going to be able to recruit 6 other knights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's right,
he's almost assuring his own victory here.
Right. You've got, the shoe-in trial, right? Baelor even says that, like, a trial's not going to go well for you. And then once that's out of the way, he's like, all right, how do I make another default judgment?
Right.
I disqualify him. And he even, when he learns that Dunk is recruiting, he then goes to Stefan and tries to rig it in his favor, and almost successfully does.
Until his own uncle.
That's right. We'll get there. For now, though, we've got to do a properly Howard draft.
Oh, is that
Much like properly Howard, Dunk and his friends, Raymond and Egg, begin a draft. Sir Stefan agrees to fight for Dunk and recruit others, and Egg pledges to recruit knights as well. Darren tells Dunk that he dreamed of the Hedge Knight alive with a fire and a dead dragon. Darren says he must fight for Arian, but if Dunk gives him a good knock on the head, he'll fall and not fight.
I think for it to be a properly Howard draft, there has to be some much more complex rules.
Unnecessarily complex, really.
Sure. That's a good point. I was watching this with my son, and I paused it in the middle of it. I said, all right, let's imagine you're in Dunk's situation. Who are the 6 friends you're going to go to sort of recruit to be part of your team? And he said, Paul, Jack, Carson, Mason, Alex, and Chris, and his squire would be his friend Charlie. So he had these names.
Sucks to be Charlie. He's like, Charlie doesn't get to be in my squad. Charlie's my sidekick.
Sorry, Charlie.
Get fucked, Charlie.
So anyway, but it would be kind of like, it would be a fun exercise for listeners. If you were in Dunk's situation, who within the world of Westeros, and it can be in any era, would you recruit to participate in your trial by 7?
That is a really fun one. We should do a bonus episode on this.
It would be an interesting scenario.
Our trial by 7 draft.
Yeah.
Because I think people might get a little tricky, like, well, I'm going to take Bran because then he can warg into a bear or something. I think it has to be someone
writing
that
down.
Initially has some kind of horsemanship, like some kind of equine training.
I mean, do they have to be a knight?
I really do think that if it's like a legit trial by 7, it would have to be it doesn't have to be a knight, but it would have to be someone like Brienne who would be good at this, right?
Although, they did knight Raymond on the spot, so technically that's
true.
possible.
All right, Sir Lionel rules then.
But then, I think that in order to make it a properly Howard draft, we have to also make each one coincide with one of the 7, of the religion.
Shit. That's tough. All right, I pick Catelyn Stark, and she'll rip the head off of any other opponent, anybody. I don't need a 7. I just need
I'm calling Beric Dondarrion first, so that he has the revive
Beric
spell.
has nothing on Catelyn Stark.
He has the revive spell. She has nothing with. Well, sorry, book spoilers, but
it is sort of my private theory that the Hound has never been with a woman. And I would use him as my sort of tricky maid category. Like if each one of the 7 has to be represented, of course, Gendry's going to be my smith. And the Hound will be my maid, and then Brienne will be she can't really be the mother, can she? She can't even be the crone.
I'm pretty sure somebody called her mother, like Tormund. I bet he called her mother.
I mean, I think if you ask the viewing audience at home, they'll say mother.
All right.
Jaime Lannister stood on his tiptoes for her.
Worth it. Worth every tippy toe.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, we've got a team ready to be built. Of course, we know what Stefan does later. Raymond, of course, our Labrador retriever of the show, ready to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, and we finally got the dream of the hedge knight with the dead dragon on top of him, wings spread wide. So we can't speculate on that, obviously, but I do wonder if people at home have thoughts about that.
Right. And I think, just sort of from what we know of what the show has told us is the dragons are dead. So the way that I would interpret that is that in this case, the dragon is symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the size of the dragon, maybe it's an important or, a dragon of renown or something like that. Or, he's felling a great foe or something along those. So, but in the dream, it's clearly Dunk, right? And Dunk, we are told, is alive, and the dragon, while on top, is dead. So I think there are a number of clues about this dream that would, I think, warrant some pretty specific speculation.
Mm-hmm.
To the spoiler section after the credits.
Although, question, I think on my first read, I don't know that I went anyway. Yeah, okay, spoiler section conversation. But I don't know that I found it obvious on my first read.
All right. Well, the next step is going to be to take a break. So we'll see you on the other side of that. Who's got a copper? Dunk enters the puppet tent and can't find Tanzel, who has run off to Dorne. Instead, Steely Pate has his shield for him and has re-armored the sides, asking only a copper as payment. Steely Pate then gives his once-attorney lecture on shield interpretation.
I think Steely Pate has kind eyes.
He does.
Yeah. He's a good dude in the books, and he was well cast in the show.
I'd swipe right on him.
I think,
Yes.
there was a question
armor.
at the, we're not quite at the scene yet, but there was a question about like, how are we going to fill out this roster? And Steely Pate's just standing right there. And I'm thinking, give that guy a hammer or something,
What, and knight him?
Yeah, knight him.
I don't know.
Like, I think, honestly, if it was like Fossaway or that guy, I'd knight the bigger guy.
Can he ride a horse? Do we know that? There's other stuff we got to learn here, and at least Raymond has had some training in some of the skills you need to qualify.
Yeah,
he's a junior knight, and I just don't know if Steely Pate's got the chops on some other.
It's
skills
possible, yeah, it's possible that Fossaway will acquit himself well, but I'd be tempted to throw some of that armor on top of Steely Pate. He's good with armor, we know that much.
And we didn't mention that so they've got both Humphreys, including the one who got crushed by the horse in his leg, so he cannot dismount the horse. He can only fight by horseback, whereas others can be more versatile. We don't know anything about the other Humphrey, Beesbury. I think we know even less than we knew in the book.
Yeah. He's sort of almost an extra.
Well, I really enjoyed the whole little talk about the leaves are still green. I put in a little bit about his once-attorney lecture for the professor in the room, but I think I would go to one of his art history classes.
I've got a little note on this, but I probably should save it for the spoiler section. I do wonder if, I said that he has kind eyes. I think that it really is sort of this eye of the beholder kind of interpretation where he needs a pep talk. Dunk needs a pep talk. He's like, falling star, that's no good. It's falling. Sunset is it's like, looking forward to night, and this is not necessarily a good omen for me. Maybe I chose the wrong sigil. And of course, kind eyes sees the painting a little bit different. It says this tree is alive, it's growing, and I think a tree is a good sigil for a tall man, right?
Yeah.
So I think Steely Pate kind of gives him a little glimmer of hope, which is what he needs.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And sometimes it's that pep talk, just that thing that gives you the energy and the drive and the hope that keeps you going.
I don't know if you two have seen edits online of people saying that Dunk has already met his versions of the 7 gods. And they of course list Steely Pete as the smith.
All right, I need to know this because someone wrote in about this, and I kind of poo-pooed it. Do you know in this case who the crone is?
I believe they made the crone
the fortune teller.
The fortune teller, yeah. They made her the stranger.
The part that I'm trying to erase in my memory.
I have a thing about the fortune teller, but that'll be spoilers. Sorry.
Okay, if that is the stranger, then who's the crone?
It's a good question.
See, I feel like people are a little bit of a reach with something.
I think it's just for fun. I guess she could be the crone and the stranger, but that doesn't feel satisfying.
If he's met the crone, it's not.
Isn't Darren the stranger?
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if we've met the crone so far, it's such a minor role that it's almost insignificant and probably not worth drawing the connection. That would be my answer to that. Oh, sorry. One more thing. It must be said that Darren the drunker has the shittiest apology ever. It could be that my lie has killed you, sir. And if that's the case, I'm sorry.
Oops.
I mean, okay, that's a first step. How about going and recanting the deception? How about actually putting some action behind your apology, sir? I'm definitely going to hell for this, and it's probably a hell without wine. Well, big deal. Like, you have just admitted your falsehood. You're sorry I'm about to die? This is beyond the pale. Beyond the pale.
Darren has got to be one of the most morally gray characters. But I mean, I think a lot of us end up forgiving him to a certain extent because he's like, I'll just fall down, you know? And I think the key is we know Egg hates his brother Arian, but he defends his brother Darren. And, you know, and then it's like, well, who knows these boys better than their little brother? So if Egg says he's okay, then all right.
Yeah, I don't think morally gray is sufficient enough. This guy's just an ass. He's a morally ass. He's a moral asshole. That's what I'm Total cowardice. Just because he's a little
very
bit
much a coward. Yeah.
I'm not in the mood to forgive Darren the drunkard.
At least he is one, he's already telling him up front, like, listen, you're starting against 6 because I'm not going to fight you. I'm just not going to do it. So that at least immediately takes one person off the board, one opponent off the board. So it's kind of like, I was just talking, I can't make a political comparison, but it's like if someone, you know, sneaks into a team under false pretenses just so they can fall down and make that team weaker.
Yeah. I can imagine other courses of action that would be a little bit more honorable than that.
Yeah, I mean, is it that gonna like punish him really? Like the most he does is like give him less money for a little bit.
I think he said at one point, he said, I couldn't take another foot whipping.
Oh boy.
And so I was like, what on earth is a foot whip? And
I guess you can't see it there.
I asked a friend of mine, and he said, I think this is called a bastonado. And it's a way that you can physically punish someone so that it's not noticeable to the naked eye.
Mm-hmm.
You actually are torturing their feet. So I don't know if he actually got a foot whipping or if this is sort of a metaphor for like a tongue lashing that he got from his father. I don't know really what this is. If he actually got his feet whooped, I do feel a little bit sorry.
Yeah. Well, let's get to dawn, where Dunk meets his team, including Sirs Robin and Lionel. Arriving on the battlefield, Sir Stefan changes sides, leaving Dunk with only 5 knights in exchange for a lordship from Arian. Raymond offers to help if knighted, and before Dunk can knight him, Lionel steps in. I was listening to your instant take, Anthony, with David and Steve. Steve was on it, right? I can't remember anymore.
Yes.
Okay. The 3 of you were talking about did Dunk actually know the words?
Mm-hmm.
I am with you that I do not think he knows the words.
I don't either. I mean, I think the whole hesitating to knight Raymond, it can be read as him hesitating to put his friend in danger. But I immediately thought, oh, he doesn't know the words. And Lionel saves him because he does.
So to know the words, he would have had to heard them several times because it's not like
right.
he's not like he's reading like the manual on chivalry or something like that, right? So he would have had to have heard Arlen knight someone or heard someone at a tournament knight or someone else. I don't think he's ever had the occasion to learn the words. Moreover, when he recounts to the Master of Games, Plumber, in the first episode, he kind of summarizes it. He said, "Yeah, he told me to protect the innocent and to defend the realm." So he kind of has the gist of what a knight is supposed to do.
Right.
But to have the exact formula memorized, I think is a tall order and probably something he's never been exposed to.
Even if he was properly knighted, which again, we all think maybe he wasn't. But even if he was, he probably wouldn't remember them. What was that cutaway to? There's a cutaway to, was that Arlen giving the shrug when he's...
Exactly. And it was perfectly placed. This is sort of a show only detail. It's perfectly placed because as the first three units of the formula are being recited, like, the warrior, be brave, the father, be just, mother, protect the innocent and children. And then you almost get like a ... as Dunk is walking away or riding away. And you get that kind of shrug from Arlen, who's kind of, I mean, you could interpret that how you want, but the way I interpreted it was Arlen was kind of like saying like, sorry, I never taught you any of this. I don't think that Dunk knows it. And I think that the shrug says it all.
I think that's probably right. Also, the only two people we've seen knight someone in the show, from my recollection, in any of these shows, was Jaime Lannister and Lionel Baratheon, right? I think that's the only people we've seen actually knight someone. And those are two people who like would regularly knight people as part of their duties, right? You have the commander of the Kingsguard, and then you have the Lord Paramount of the realm, where he's going to knight every like really prestigious knight that's ready for knighthood, probably. I think it's reasonable that both of those have those memorized. Whereas I don't know if every knight has those words all memorized.
Mm. And the other thing is, if Dunk had knighted Raymond and he wasn't properly knighted himself, then that would have been not only having Dunk himself be a false knight, but would have made Raymond a false knight as well. And now instead, Raymond gets knighted by one of the most prominent knights in the land. So that's good for Raymond.
I was knighted by the Laughing Storm. I don't know. Yeah,
no big deal. No big deal. Have you heard of it? It is
good. And I've, in talking with people who know about the period in our world, if you are knighted by a king or a high lord or a knight of renown, that absolutely increases your status as a knight. Whereas if Raymond was dubbed by a hedge knight, it wouldn't necessarily be a knock on his armor, but it's certainly less prestigious.
Yeah. It's Interview with a Vampire rules, right? The
right.
more prestigious the vampire, the stronger vampire you are.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You want to be turned by Lestat, not by Louis.
That's right. That's right. So we've got our team in. We're ready to go. Dunk makes a desperate plea to the audience for a knight to join his cause. He's met with a fart and laughter that takes all the shame out of the audience. All seems lost when Prince Baelor arrives to pledge himself to the cause of Sir Duncan, a true knight who protected the innocent. I enjoyed the fart. I know a lot of people were pissed about it, but I enjoyed the fart.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was if you're upset about the fart, then you have not been watching the show very carefully. This show has prepared you all along for the fart.
This show is mild. The fart in this universe, right?
Absolutely.
That's the most mild, risque thing we've had in this season so far.
So I like the amount of time it takes. It almost feels like maybe Baelor is not convinced that he is going to participate until he sees the Fossaway betrayal. And maybe when he sees that, I think he this is all sort of in my own mind, but thinking once he sees that, he's thinking, oh, all right, forget this. I'm gonna join the other side because
Was he in his throne to begin with? When
I don't know. I don't think we see him, but I do feel like if that was sort of the inciting moment, if sort of the deciding factor, it does require a little bit of time to get your horse together, to get your armor on, all of that business. It feels like the timing is right for him to sort of enter at that stage.
I think that's right. And then if he got another knight to fight with him besides him, he would then go back to the king's chair, the royal chair, and he would be like, "No, guys, I just really felt like wearing my armor today. It's fine. No big deal."
I mean, I think it says so much, though. I just can't imagine any other night would mean as much to the people watching, just to have the accuser's own uncle, the heir to the throne, step in on the side of this hedge knight. That really says everything about who is morally in the right here.
It does, but in addition to that, it totally levels the playing field because, like,
the Kingsguard
Dunk has no
him.
shot before. He has no shot, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a good fight. We're going to actually see one of the most storied knights of the entire kingdom.
I mean, several, at least two. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And Sir Robin is legendary too, isn't he? Like he's crazy, but he's a crazy good knight too.
Right. And the Humphreys too also have quite a name. But the thing is also with Baylor in the mix, the King's Guard cannot attack Baylor.
That's right.
The two, he has 3 King's Guardsmen?
Yeah. So almost half the other team can't attack one of the members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely looking better. And I think it's funny though that Baylor, whatever his intentions were, he waited until Dunk, gave his little speech so that he could ride in at the right moment and the music could rise. Because I'm sure they know the theme song in their universe too.
What if that dude who farted stood up and actually says, I'll stand with you. And then immediately Baylor gallops in. Would they tell the guy, never mind?
I don't think so. I think they'd tell Raymond to sit down. I think they would say, Raymond, I'm sorry, but you're knight now, but you're not in the team.
I'm sure Raymond would be relieved, but he gets his knighthood without fighting.
Not a bad deal out of the situation, getting knighted by the Laughing Storm and not risking death.
Yeah. That would be a deal for him. Yeah.
Pretty good. He's sipping cider while on the sidelines. He's happy. He's ready to go. Somebody pointed out that every single time he sees Dunk, he's like, "Are you hungry? Do you want cider? Are you hungry?" Like he's always just offering alms to Dunk.
Well, it's there's an expression in Dutch, love goes through the stomach.
He's good to go. Well, that's the episode. I mean, it's not actually a lot of plot. It's mostly just, a few set pieces getting us ready for the penultimate episode.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, even though it is a setup episode, it just makes you feel all the feelings, right?
Yeah.
And it rises and it falls dramatically, and then it rises again. You get to hear the traditional Game of Thrones music, sort of to herald the oncoming, Baylor breaks spear, and it ends perfectly. It just ends, it cuts to black as soon as Dunk is, gesturing his horse forward. Almost as if to say, all right, now it begins. Now here's the real story. And I kind of feel sorry for folks who were out in episode 1, because this really did harken back to a Game of Thrones episode.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while to get here, and so if you didn't enjoy the ride up until this point, maybe it wasn't worth sticking around. But I do feel like this episode was worth kind of a lot of the comedy. If the comedy did not work for you earlier episodes, this episode almost rewards you for sticking around.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, got a lot more serious this episode.
Well, I'm ready for a nice and gruesome battle, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see what they give us. Imagine they just cut to the end of it. at the beginning of the next episode. They're like, this is not this kind of show. There's going to be no Battle of the Bastards here for you folks.
I do think that this is Martin's world, right? So when we were covering this book with Steve, I was sort of covering the novella with Steve, and this was his first read. His take up until this point was, this is Game of Thrones. Absolutely, I should expect the bad guys to win and tragedy to come to Dunk, right? And if you just keep on flipping pages and you're expecting Martin's world to end in that way, you feel at this point anything could happen. Like absolutely anything could happen. Now, I think that the tone of this show is sort of feels different. I don't feel like if you're just watching the show without having read the novella, I don't think that you feel afraid for Dunk at this point. I feel like you're rooting for him. You want the catharsis.
It helps that you know that they're filming season 2.
It does help that you know that they're filming season 2. Sure, yeah.
Maybe the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms in season 2 is Raymond.
I would watch that show. I would watch it.
I love Raymond.
Still be his squire?
I thought it was fantastic. He's just hiding behind the tree. He just pops out like an apple.
Yeah.
Are you hungry, Dunk?
And immediately he's like, talking to your horse? It's fucking mad.
I will note that was a joke of, are you hungry? But like, it's kind of a running joke. But earlier in the season, he goes, are you hungry? Always. And for once, Dunk says, no, I'm not hungry. And that tells you how Dunk's heart is in his stomach right now, right? Like he just cannot even fathom eating.
Bless Raymond's little heart, because Dunk isn't eating because he's nauseous, right? He's got anxiety. He feels like it's maybe his last night on Earth. But Raymond knows you got to eat an apple. At least eat an apple, man. You got to have. You can't go in on an empty stomach.
That's right.
Everyone knows you gotta have carb up before you work out.
Sure.
I'm
as a gym rat, I know this. I'm just kidding.
I'm definitely going to the Fossilways for dinner.
Yeah.
Not to the phrase.
Oh yeah, no. I won't take their salt and bread. It means nothing.
Nothing. All right. Well, if you are only listening to this podcast, you're only getting a third of the shows we're doing per week. You have to go over to Properly Howard Movie Review, which you can look up on any podcast player, or you can find in the show notes here. So you can get the feedback episode every Friday. You can get the instant take every Sunday, rather. And you'll have a good time with Steve and Anthony over there.
And sometimes we welcome other friends to join us. This last instant take, David joined us. And who knows who will show up at the end of this. I will note that we will be doing a draft for our next season of Properly Howard Film Review. We'll be covering films that either I have never seen or Steve has never seen. So we'll be doing that draft in short order.
That's very fun. Looking forward to it. All right. Otherwise, on the network, we've got Radioactive Ramblings finishing up their Fallout Season 2 coverage. Go check that out over there. We've got Nevermind the Music doing weekly coverage of music and psychology. A lot of great stuff going over there. Again, every Tuesday they drop a new episode, so definitely subscribe to that. You can find all these affiliates in the link tree in the show notes, and see the shows that are on pause for a minute. Unless, Alicia, you have any other news?
No, I mean, more in the main Lorehounds feed or the Comics Versus feed. Watch out for part 2 of Wonder Man's. Yeah. Sorry, this episode was late, and Wonder Man is coming out later than expected because everybody's been sick this week.
It's winter in the Northeast United States. We're all screwed. Even though you're not in the Northeast, but it's okay.
I actually haven't. Well, yeah, I've been more dealing with other people's issues. Other animals' issues. But yeah, and then of course, ongoing award season coverage that's going to be ramping up as we get closer and as this winds up as well. So watch out for that.
Very cool. Silmarillion Stories, I'm recording with Marilyn tomorrow night. No, not tomorrow night, 2 nights from now. So that'll be very exciting. There's more Tolkien coming your way. And we'll see you on the next episode. But first, we got to thank everybody. Alicia, you want to thank Somebody? The Discord server boosters?
Sure. Thank you to our Discord server boosters, Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Duve71, Athena Ajalea, Lestu, Nancy M, Ghost of Partition, Radioactive Richard, and Adrian.
And our lore masters, Samartian, Michael G, Michelle E, SC, Peter OH, Nancy M, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Nathan T, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu, Jeffrey B, Elisa U, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen N, Julia F, Kali S, Ilmariel, Paul K, Rocky Zim, Jessica A, Red Zippy, the TCS, Dopamini, Kedget, Ellen R, Mrs. Tennant, AC Wilson, Eli W, Cassie K, Chumbarooney, Katia, Josh Liu, Paint and PDX, Corey G, Quinch, and Adrian. Thanks everyone for all your support. Stick around after the credits for the book spoilers section.
Spoilers.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening. Before we get into book spoilers, I have to know what the go-go sound somebody loaded into the Zencaster interface is.
Oh, that's that's from Wonder Man.
Ooh, this is tasty. Yeah. Tell us about some book spoilers, everybody.
I feel like we should have a River Song spoilers clip up and loaded. Anyway,
that would be good. I think I've used that before, but I have not kept it around.
Right. Well, I guess we got to talk about this prophecy, of course, right? So, Anthony, do you want to say things about the dragon with the wide wings that's dead on top of Dunk?
I was just going to say first off that I think that there's a mention of a fire. Doesn't?
Yeah.
In this one?
There's a fire. Yeah, in this prophecy, there's a fire. There's a dragon on top of Dunk, and he's alive. Dragon's dead.
Okay. So who knows if this... Okay, so I don't think that the fire has anything to do with this season, right?
No.
Because we know how this season ends. And yet we know that there's a prominent fire in Dunk's story. And so I think... And we did not get a fire relative to Dunk's prophecy from the Woods Witch. So this is an interesting development. If you are a book reader, you might think of the fire at Summerhall as significant for Egg and not Dunk. So in this case, we get not from the Woods Witch, but we do get from Darren the mention of fire. So I thought.
Well, so what's interesting is that the fortune teller didn't say, I was joking like, why she's got to talk about Egg's death, but not Dunk's death. What if the dragon on top of Dunk isn't about Baelor in this next episode? What if it means that Dunk actually secretly survives the fire of Summerhall?
It's really interesting to me, and I was wondering, sometimes because it is symbolic, and because there's a lot of dragons, you might interpret it as Baelor. That would be the immediate interpretation. And yet it did cross my mind. It's like, I wonder if this is not necessarily a prophecy about what's going to happen in the immediate, but maybe this is something that is meant for Dunk, sort of the final story of Dunk's arc. I'm not really sure what to do with that.
Okay, since we're talking about the prophecies, can I bring up something about the fortune teller that I've been seeing? People have been pointing out online that the fortune teller who will say they use the same actress again as the woman in the tavern in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have pointed out that, we don't see her face is mostly obscured under a purple hood. And some people have pointed out that there might be a birthmark on her cheek. And by purple hood, could that be a color also called plum? Plumm?
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is Blood Raven?
It could be. But why would he do that?
It makes no sense. I mean, look, it's an interesting detail. They did bring in some other stuff from the Mystery Knight. For instance, they brought in the sort of subterfuge, like maybe we could turn a profit if someone, accidentally falls off their horse, wink, wink. That is a plot detail from the Mystery Knight that they brought into this story. So it wouldn't necessarily be beyond them to bring in Bloodraven into this story either. I just don't know why you do it. If that is what you want to do, I don't know what purpose that is.
I mean, I guess we shall see, but it is interesting. I mean, because that whole thing, adding her at all is, and I thought that I was kind of looking out for Bloodraven to show up here because he is, so Bloodraven is another dreamer from the family who becomes, we see him in the original show. He is the one who is up north of the wall, hooked into the tree system, teaching Bran how to work.
And so, maybe he's a shapeshifter. There's a couple indications that maybe he can practice a little faceless man kind of magic. Maybe he's the rat that Dunk is petting in the very beginning of this episode.
Did that have a no? Yeah, that would be him working. Yeah, I mean,
a man has no idea.
Yeah, I mean, but I would imagine that Bloodraven is watching everything from the future, at least, but maybe from the present as well to a certain extent, because that's why. What is the saying about him? He has 1,000 eyes
and one. Yeah,
and one.
I just want Bran to be narrating this, going, "He shouldn't have fought it then."
I was going to bring up one more thing about Summerhall. So, when they're interpreting the shield, Dunk is like, "Oh no, my shield is all about death. It's a falling star. It's sunset." And then Steely Pate says, "No, look at these green leaves. This is clearly a tree of summer." We know what happens to Summerhall, right? And we know that that's a significant, portending someone's death, at least at Summerhall. So I do feel like maybe the shield is not necessarily the portent of hope that Steely Pate is interpreting. Right.
So season 2, we know, so it jumps ahead a couple of years, but of course in this world, seasons last for years. So doesn't season 2, it starts with a drought. That's summer, right?
Yes.
It's spring now in season 1, and season 2 takes place in summer a couple of years later, something like that.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if the drought, I mean, you could have a drought in winter. It's possible to do that. I mean,
it was very hot.
Not winter. Yeah. I don't know if I don't know how to interpret this. I do think that, do we know what season it is in the second novella?
I mean, I assume summer because of
everyone's sweating all the time.
Heat a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question about the finale. If they wrap up the battle next episode, which I assume they will. I assume the next episode's going to end with something horrible happening to a dragon. Then for the finale, what are they like? Is there going to be flashback stuff to flesh out the finale? Is there going to be flash forward stuff? That seems less likely to me, especially because Dexter Soul, what's his face? Egg was. We can tell his aging because he's a kid. So, they couldn't just age him up for a flash forward or something. What do you guys think is going to take up the time in the finale?
Definitely the aftermath of, Baylor's death, obviously. We're going to, we kind of skip that in the book, right? It's kind of just he died, and then later Egg comes and visits Duncan and is like, "I'd still like to be your squire." And who's with him? Maekar comes with him?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure, fine, go with him. That's a lot of yada yada. between those. And I think you could fill up an episode with that.
So here's a few things that they could do with the final episode. We've introduced a few plot lines that we didn't see in the novella, right? We could have a follow-up conversation with the Master of Games, right? We could have a follow-up with the sex workers. We could have a follow-up, sort of a bow tied on the relationship between Raymond Fossaway and Dunk. None of those things are in the novella. We could have sort of a Laughing Storm swan song, right? He's more of a fleshed out character in this show than he was in the book. So we could have a final conversation between the Laughing Storm and Dunk. There's a lot of little bits and pieces that have given this particular show texture that we didn't find in the novella. And it feels like you might want sort of a final goodbye to some of these characters who we may or may not meet in future seasons.
Right. I mean, the Laughing Storm in particular, we know he plays an important role in Duncan Egg's future. So it would make sense. I think there has to be something to wrap that up. Yeah. And Raymond too, just because he's been trying so hard to be Dunk's bestie.
Yeah.
Just let it happen, Dunk.
It's true. It's totally true. I mean, I guess because we are in the spoiler section, we can mention that this is sort of the inciting moment of the two different Fossaway families. After this particular event, Raymond takes on his own sigil. He changes the red apple to green. And so now you have two different branches and two different houses of the Fossaways going forward. And the family points back to this moment when the green apples became a thing, I guess.
Yeah. Because fuck Stefan.
You know what?
We're done with Stefan.
Yeah.
You know what? I will just say this guy he was such a great conduit of righteous anger. You just kind of thought this is how Robert's rebellion begins. These guys who hate the Targaryens, who's like, where are their dragons? Why do they get to lord it over us? Mm-hmm. There are people like Stefan Fossaway in the land who kind of give rise to something like Robert's Rebellion when it finally comes to a fore. Are they really fighting for the honor of Lyanna Stark, or are they just sick of these dragon lords lording it over them? And so I think that someone like Stefan Fossaway gives you a great window into sort of the undercurrent, the Howard Zinn of it all, underneath the sort of the traditional stories of the Targaryen lordship.
Don't worry, Bran will hold it all together in the future. Guy comes to him to complain, says, my sheep ran away. He goes, oh, your sheep are back home. I brought him back home.
Because he warged into all of them.
He warged into all the sheep.
Interesting. I think
that's all I got.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's all I had for our spoilers section. Did you guys have anything else?
I don't think so. I'm not as versed in this area as you two are, so I don't want to start saying wrong things. But I'm excited to see what comes true. I'm excited to see how these prophecies wrap up. And I think it's going to be a good rest of the season.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're already filming season 2.
Definitely. All right, everybody. We will see you, or Anthony will see you with Steve for feedback on Friday, and then we will see you for another full breakdown next week. Bye.
See you.